I normally have a lavalier because I tend to use my hands a lot. So if I'm doing this a lot, I apologize. So I work for Verizon now. Yay, Verizon! That's all they're getting out of me tonight because we're not here to talk about where I work. We're here to talk about what I love and about the incredible work that game developers local here in Philly are doing, right? So I can tell you right now, and if you go talk to them, they'll go, well, no, we believe it because we're passionate. People don't go into video games unless they're completely passionate about what they do. Otherwise, they wouldn't put up with all the nonsense that has to kind of go into game development, right? We do it because we love video games and because we want to see our art in the world, and so I applaud those guys and gals. So everyone, please give a round of applause to the game developers that came out tonight. All right, so I'm going to try to compress an hour and 20-minute presentation into 20 minutes. Which is why this is called the lightning round. So, all right, let's go right in. So this is my entire history. This is my entire life in video games. That's me at 10, if you can see over here. This is what happens when your sister or your stepsister has access to a scanner and a box of old photos and lives in Europe and puts them on Facebook. You get photos like that. You know what? I apologize for the camera there. Hold on one second. Have wiggle room to move around in. All right. Let's see if I can pull all this crap off the table. You see, that is the game developer attitude, right? You can do it, moron. Okay, so there at 10, that's Nolan Bushnell, who founded Atari. And when we were doing the opening of the video games exhibition in Washington, the projector broke, so he decided to go into tree pose and couldn't let him do it by himself, which is pretty awesome. That's my 40th birthday cake, the bottom there with the big Atari logo on it. When I turned 40, my wife said, we're going to have this party for you, and what do you want on your cake? And I said, I want an Atari logo, and she's like, you're a moron. And I said, okay, but let's go do it anyway. And we went to this little bakery by our house, and the woman behind the counter says, do you mean this? And she gets out a piece of paper, and she freehand draws the Atari logo. And I was like, what? She goes, yeah, when I was a kid, Atari was the first computer that I had. It's something my brothers used to play. I love it, and I want to make your cake. And so then she went out to the web and found all these other bitmaps from original Atari VCS characters and painted them all over the side of the cake. So it was a tearful moment. We had to cut it. But this is my entire life in video games. I started programming back when I was 9 years old. I wrote my first game, half in assembly, half in BASIC. By the time I was 12, this is my very first computer. This is the Commodore VIC-20. Now, some of you may go, but I thought it was the Commodore 64. The Commodore 64s were for rich punks that had parents that could afford a Commodore 64. And pardon my French, but you knew your shit if you could program in 5K of RAM, okay? Which is what this was, right? And when you take a look at it by comparison, the icon for Firefox in OS X is 64 kilobytes big. And in those very first machines, we had 5K of RAM. In a cartridge, you would have an 8 kilobyte game like Defender. So literally just a fraction of the size of the icon, that is the internet, we were creating these games, and people were figuring how to go ahead and impart worlds and stories and emotion and experiences they wanted to share with people into these incredibly small, minuscule spaces. In fact, Ed Fries, who was one of the co-founders or creators of the Xbox and founded Microsoft Game Studios, he had done a remake of Halo for the Atari VCS called Halo 2600. Has anyone seen this? For those of you that haven't, you need to go to the intertubes and find it, and it is amazing. He basically boiled down the essence of what makes Halo Halo into a 4 kilobyte game that you could buy on a cartridge and plug into a 1977 era Atari machine, and it works. And when asked about programming, he said, programming for this machine is like writing haiku because every character matters, right? Every beat matters. And this is what we were faced with, right? And these were kind of the logos and the toys of that generation, right? I mean, look at how amazing this stuff is. Like, look at this thing, Armatron. Like two kids, and like what is so important that they had to be dressed in lab coats and bow ties to work with this like plastic, it's like, oh my God, it's robots, sort of thing, right? Pac-Man there and Big Track. Does anyone know what Big Track is? You may not be able to see it. We got one hand in the back. Big Track was amazing. It was this tank that a telephone keypad on the back of it, right? And you would go ahead and you'd say, go 10 feet and turn 90 degrees, and go 5 feet and turn 90 degrees, and you'd spend an hour programming this thing to move in like an interconnected box pattern. You're like, it's robots in the house. It's robots right there. And it's just absolutely amazing, right? But what did it really all mean, right? For those of us growing up in this space, it was not only the technology coming into our homes, it was technology invading the social space, right? The first computers inside of Americans' homes were video games, right? The very first systems that made it into the home were systems like the Magnavox Odyssey in 1971, followed up by the Pong machine, followed up by the Atari machine. These were the first pieces of technology that were gifted to children who grew up, decided to make it part of their career, and raise families of their own. For the first time, we have that in society. And so we didn't see them just in the homes, but this is kind of what it looked like out in the space. And I'm sorry, but Dave & Buster's are not arcades, right? There's a difference between, and barcades are kind of close and they're getting there, but there's something about that moment in time where the entire, there was this entire social experiment that kind of grew up, and rules of engagement grew up within this space. Like, it was perfectly acceptable for two guys that didn't know each other to stand shoulder to shoulder without introducing each other and play a game and then walk away. And now if you went into an empty elevator and did the same thing and got right up next to somebody and said, hey, what's up, right? Well, I know we should try that. Let's have an experiment. We've got some elevators in here, right? And this is what marketers thought video games looked
nice
like.
Graphics. I'd like to get my hands on that game.
You mean you haven't played it yet? We can play it on my Nintendo Entertainment System.
It's The Legend of Zelda, and it's really rad. Those creatures from Ganon are pretty bad. Octoroks, Tektites, Levers too. But with your help,
So we have the
hero
nerd,
goes
we have
through.
the jock.
Yeah, go Link. Yeah, get some.
Go Link, get some. We have misogyny. We have like all of the things, right?
System.
Games, nerds, jocks, and misogyny, all in one 30-second commercial, right? Like, this is what marketers thought video games meant. Right? How many people have a love for this? It is the best, worst movie ever made, right? Right. What's the most amazing thing about Tron is that Tron emerged at a time when people didn't understand computer technology, but they were trying to impart these very abstract notions of what computer terminology meant to an audience that didn't understand it. So there's one scene in the movie in the beginning, right, where Alan goes and talks to Flynn. They're upstairs in the arcade, and he says, you know, why are you trying to break into Encom? And he says, because, man, somewhere in one of these memories is the evidence. And what he's talking about is a computer file. But if you asked about a computer file, right, in that era, people were like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Computers are things the militaries and banks use. You know, I don't understand what you're asking for. So this was a movie that actually cemented itself in American culture at a time where we were forming language, and we were forming the words around those technologies that would become inextricable from modern life, right? And that's why I love it, not because of what it did, but because of what it tried to do. And of course, everybody was scared to death. Attack of the video games, they're gonna zap a kid near you. Gronk Flash Zap, video games are blitzing the world. And Pokemon, for many kids, it's now an addiction. I know all the Pokemon clinics that are absolutely taking up all the real estate in the city. It's terrible, right? Horrible, this Pokemon thing. The Pokemans, right? It's because we didn't understand what all of it meant, right? But you flash forward today, and everybody plays games, right? This, apart from this lovely marketing photo here, right? You have the other real photos of people that are actually engaged in games and game culture and have accepted it as part of modern, you know, American life, right? Not just in America, but globally. Like this family down here, they dress every year and go to Comic-Con together as characters. How awesome is that, right? My kids still let me, well, I don't dress in characters, but I do have Star Wars Vans on, which are kind of nerdy, I guess. Super IM 8-Bit, this is an art gallery in LA where they do reworks of video game characters and video game icons in other forms of art. Pretty amazing. In fact, the owner, John, of the gallery, was approached by a group that was actually putting a satellite into orbit that was supposed to measure weather and kind of like storm movement and this sort of thing. And they said, we want you guys, as gamers and technology guys, to make this into a piece of artwork. So they made it look like a USB docking station, this satellite, and it basically says, hey, aliens, we're not so bad, like, don't blow us up, but charge your stuff and leave, right? So the very first piece of art in space actually came from game artists, right? So the question, though, is why? Like, why is all this happening now? Why is it seemingly that everybody's playing games? Why is it that Gartner released a report saying that the largest segment of gamers in the United States are women over the age of 35, right? Like, why do we care? Because games are part of being human, right? We've been playing games for as long as we've been recording our history, right? And playing them even before then. So we haven't stopped. In fact, a game that led a lot of game developers into the practice was Dungeons and Dragons, which is actually the oldest form of entertainment we have, which is spoken word stories, right? Now, forget the fact that it's Tolkien-esque based source material. These are people that come together to have this oral communication and this storytelling mode that is as old as we are, and as we banded together to form, tribes and civilization and this and that. We've played these games throughout our entire collective history. So when you look at shows like this, how many people hate this show? You can raise your hand. It's good. How many people love the show? All right. So, yeah, okay, it's every ridiculous trope about people who play games or are part of nerd culture, which there really is no such thing as nerd culture. That's what's so wonderful about this, because what it shows is kind of the acceptance of science and mathematics and these sorts of activities by a generalized public. Yes, it may be dumbed down a bit, but that's okay, because when people go, well, I know what Schrodinger's cat is all about. You go, okay, that's great. Like the fact that you learned about that through a sitcom doesn't negate the fact that that is actually an important piece of learning in like quantum studies, right? And so what we're finding is that there's this wider acceptance of this type of material in society today. When we look at books like Ready Player One by Ernie Klein, that was on the New York Times bestseller list for 26 weeks. And if anybody grew up in the 80s, haven't read this book, you need to read this book because it is unbelievable. You have bands like 8-Bit Weapon, which is Michelle and Seth Sternberg up there, and I Fight Dragons, which is an awesome kick-ass chiptunes band out of Chicago, and they tour on the Vans Warped Tour with other headline acts like Blink-182 and Sum 41. Wreck-It Ralph and the Angry Video Game Nerd movie, which was the Indiegogo sponsored. You saw the movie? No? You were just clapping because, yay, Angry Nerds, right? It's good, right? So we're seeing it in books and in music and in popular movies, right? We're even seeing it in remixes by, look, our very own DJ Cutman, who's here this evening. So here's DJ Cutman's track, his Super Mario 3D World Jazz remix that he's published here. How lovely is that, right? So people remixing those things. We have one of the museums that took on the exhibition that surprised me when I went out to do the opening talks and these sorts of things with the television commercial they made. So remember, this is without any input from the game side. People in the museum were so excited about having this exhibition. This is the commercial that they commissioned to be made. This is all shot in, downtown Toledo. I mean, except for the characters and everybody in there. And they got that footage by flying a drone down the street.
Games, June 19th through September 28th at the Toledo Museum of Art.
And the fact that a museum has access to drones should scare you a little bit. And then I Fight Dragons, which we fell in love with this band. My whole family did, and I have a funny story to tell you later about them. I wanted to play you a little clip of their type of music.
I remember trying to talk to you in high school. Couldn't even get a look 'cause you were too cool. But now we're older and we're playing by the new rules. We lived and learned, 'cause as time moves on, we find we belong. And then in the end, we were the ones you used to make fun of. We stayed at home alone instead of falling in love. We never got the chance to be drunken. We didn't even dance, but here's the thing. We got the cars, we got the money. We need some sun, but I'm telling you, honey, that the geeks will.
We need some sun. That is the line that cracked my life.
Will inherit the earth.
Okay, all right. So I'm going to blitz through some of the other pieces that we talk about what games kind of look like today, and I'm going to take you straight into the art exhibition piece that we did for the Smithsonian. So the question was, could video games be viewed as an art form? There have been many exhibitions that have been done about the observance of art within video games. We really wanted to ask the question and try to not necessarily provide the answer, but provide the materials that allow people to form their own decision. So whether or not video games themselves can truly be considered art, right? So the original premise that I started having the discussions with back in 2009 with the head of the Smithsonian American Art Museum in Washington was centered around this advertisement which came out in 1982 by Electronic Arts, and this is the actual copy. And basically, these are people that, again, in an era where systems were so anemic that we were having a very difficult time of explaining that the 4 blocks on the screen was actually a tank. And you were fighting this massive epic war, and those other blocks were giant missiles attacking your family, right? It required a whole hell of a lot on the part of the player to put their imagination in and kind of bring the rest of that out. But even back then, they were saying what we are making is not software. It is an expression of humanity, it's an expression of our emotions, and these systems eventually will reflect who we are, will reflect the stories we want to tell, and that may emerge as simply as a smile. And so they're basically kind of battle cry was, join us. We are the next generation of artists that want to create art for the world. So the concept that evolved from that initial discussion was going to focus on these 3 components: a 40-year evolution in video games as an artistic medium, focus on influential artists and designers, and then talk about how core game mechanics that were set down in the earliest forms of games persist over time. But technology just provides a bigger palette upon which to create the experiences that you want. So if you take a look at things like Pitfall from 1982, and you see the way Pitfall Harry is running through a jungle, and he's clambering over stones and logs and swinging over vines, and then you flash forward to 2009, and you see Nathan Drake in a jungle, swinging over vines, clambering over these logs, jumping over water. The mechanics and the cadence at which those 2 characters move is very much the same. So it's those core mechanics laid down in 82 that persist to this day, right? So we wanted to highlight how you hear these echoes of design throughout time. And it focuses around 3 voices that conspire to create or allow video games to emerge as an art form. You have the voice of an artist, right? People who are developing the games, they have a story they want to tell. You have the voice of a game, which is literally the mechanics of the game, how you are to play it, what are the rules, how do you control it, what do you do? But then it's the voice of the player. So when you play, games like Final Fantasy, we may start at the beginning where the author wants us to start, and we arrive where they eventually want us to end. But along the way, you get to make these very small choices that in the aggregate make it a personal experience for yourself, right? So we wanted to focus on these 3 areas. So to that end, we picked 80 games. Actually, we picked 240 games that would then be kind of whittled down to the 80 games that were on display as the primary focus of the exhibition. We chose 240 because I said it's impossible for us to hold true to that sentiment of audience participation or self-observation in games unless we open it up. So what we did is we chose 3 games per genre, 4 genres per system, and we left it open to the vote of the public. We pulled about 3.7 million votes in a month from 175 countries that determined the actual materials that would come in. And the great thing was the first 20 minutes that the polling site was open, it like melted their server. The Smithsonian's like, what the hell is going on, right? And I remember the poor system admin that was working on it, Carlos, he just sends an email out one night and he's like, I'm working on it, everybody shut up. We're like, okay, cool, we're going to do that. And what's great, there was a whole conversation that emerged around, well, why wasn't this game there? You suck. It's like, well, because I could choose 3 out of each genre, out of the thousands for each, right? So this was framed by my experience in video games and working with game companies over the course of my life, and this is what's reflected in the exhibition. So these are some of the behind-the-scenes pictures we did. I did 24 interviews in 27 hours at the Game Developer Conference in 2011. So I was literally sleeping like in the middle of this photo shoot because we had stacked all the furniture on the wall, which facilities loved that we did that to their hotel room. Intercontinental is so good about that kind of stuff. And the thing was that you also can't shoot any video when you have air conditioners going, so we would have to cool the room and then shut it off for a 45-minute interview, so everyone's sweating by the end, and then you try to cool it down. So it was this constant yo-yoing. But we had everybody in there. We had Nolan Bushnell, who founded Atari, and Robin Hunicke, who did Journey, if anyone's played Journey on PlayStation 3, which is an amazing game, right? Down here you have Ron Gilbert and Warren Spector. Ron was one of the original guys at LucasArts, doing Secret of Monkey Island and all those games. And then Warren, of course, did Thief and Deus Ex, and then reimagined Mickey Mouse for the Disney company. But the coolest part about being in such a tight community is that even as small as it is, a lot of people still don't know each other. So as I was walking Ron out, and my counterpart, Georgina, was walking Warren in, Ron goes, "Is that Warren Spector?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "Would you introduce me?" I'm like, "Okay." And literally at the same time, he's like, "Is that Ron Gilbert? Would you introduce me to Ron?" So I have this nice picture with me and those two guys, but I've got another picture of them where they're both just like cheek to cheek, just, "Oh my God, I love your work," right? So it's fans loving the work of other fans, right? It's pretty amazing. And then this guy down here, Mike, does everyone know who the Donkey Kong dad is? Do you remember this story that came out? The guy that reprogrammed Donkey Kong so Pauline could save Mario? He received like marriage proposals after this, and he was Mashable's #1 dad of the top 10 dads of last year. And Mike's like, "Really? Like some dad on the list took a bullet for their kid. Like this was, reskinning Donkey Kong. It wasn't that big a deal, guys, right?" Mike's a very old friend of mine, and we're in his basement where he has more than 6,000 games, literally. It's a problem, really. But it's also, when I go in there and try to pick materials out, I'm like, I'm just an idiot. I can't even think straight. All right, so we pulled these things together. The Smithsonian had built these beautiful kiosks that reflected each of those 4 genres, and they were basically the first letter of each of the genres spell out AT-AT, which of course is not Star Wars. And then about 2/3 of the systems out of my personal collection made it into the show, but all the video in there and all the screenshots and all the writing was actually me playing all of the games out of my collection and doing all the screen caps and doing all this kind of crazy stuff. So it really is this very raw, open kind of dissection of my entire life in playing these kinds of games. Here's more of the awesome stuff that they put in place. It was really kick-ass. There were 5 playable games in there, and we went down to original systems. So it was an original Pac-Man board that Namco didn't even own, so we had to go to eBay to find them. They're like, "We have no idea where our Pac-Man game is. What's this Pac-Man thing? Maybe we have some Miss Pac-Man lying around." The best part was Myst. Anyone played Myst? Right? Awesome game, right? It was crashing the day of the first press day. So literally, as the press is in the first section of the exhibition, it's crashing. And we were like, "Oh my God, you've got to be kidding me." Rand Miller, one of the 2 Miller brothers who created the game, happened to be there to do one of the panels. So we go and find Rand. And Rand comes in, he goes, "Oh, I know exactly what this problem is. It's the same crap we dealt with when we were making the game." So Rand is literally like troubleshooting and hacking this Windows 3.1 machine as the press is coming into the room. He's like speed coding his way through this. And then hits, restart, and everything just works. We're like, "You've got to be kidding." It's like the most surreal moment about this surreal game. It's absolutely insane. And this is kind of a taste of what the museum put together. Games are so much more than just code that runs inside of the computer. You were looking at... And yes, I used to dye my hair all different colors, and now it's all gray because of my children.
One of the things that's really fun with games is the whole idea of the playful mind. And how can we make games surprise you? You think of all the things you could do in a perfect world, and then the tech would let you do the postage stamp in the middle of that landscape. But of course, the postage stamp keeps getting bigger as the years go by.
Sega supplied me footage of Sonic because they said the person playing it wasn't very good.
Still playing a game is you feel like you've succeeded
So
in learning
I
something.
said, okay.
And you're good at it.
One game, 100 yen.
You don't need technology to create feelings and love and fear and hate and passion. You need great storytelling.
Time to break the chain.
Video games aren't this trivial little form of entertainment. This is something that touches people deeply.
Anything human does has a potential to express. There's no difference between digital and traditional. They are all art.
What we've seen from games so far is just the beginning of what this medium is capable of doing.
Hold on, and everything will be fine.
Games have become an art, but I think they can become a richer and deeper art. The art form for the 21st century.
So that was kind of what it was about, and this is what happened when they opened the doors. The line stretched around the block in Washington. Now, if any of you have never been to this museum, this is also connected to the National Portrait Gallery. It sits off the mall, so it's not easy to get to. So they'd never seen a crowd like this. 23,000 people showed up for the opening weekend into the museum. The line inside the museum stretched 2.5 city blocks and almost reached the exit of the exhibition. So the museum was going, what do we do if they hit the exit? It's like, I don't know, loop it again, maybe, you know. And people waited for 2.5 hours to get in on the opening day inside the building. And there's Seth and Michelle down there performing video game music on Commodore 64s in the courtyard, the largest exhibition space in Washington. And it was completely packed, like 1,500 people or 2,000 people in there for that. It was crazy. And we did all these great panels, and there's Ken Levine of BioShock fame, who's now writing the Logan's Run screenplay, and Kelly Santiago from that game company who did Flower and Journey, Paul Barnett from Electronic Arts, Mark DeLora, the gentleman sitting next to me in the red shirt. He actually works at the Office of Science and Technology at the White House on a MacArthur grant focused on video games in STEM, civics, healthcare, and coding as literacy for the government. So we actually have somebody who is an incredibly seasoned and well-respected person from the games industry. He was a longtime executive at Nintendo and Sony, and he wrote Game Developer Gems, the series. If any of you game developers have seen those books. That's Mark, so we have like a real game guy in the White House. And Nolan and I did this sit-down with Hideo Kojima for 90 minutes, which was awesome. And he said in 2006 that video games could never be art. And we had him there at the opening, so I asked him on stage, do you still feel that way after seeing this? And he said, well, I don't really remember exactly what I said in 2006. But let me just say, and he went on to talk about the exhibition of which his work is included. We wrote a book, and we'll go past that. And so the last bit here is I'm going to share with you is some of the comments that people made or left for us after going through the exhibition. Now, what's important to understand is in a 6-month exhibition, they typically fill 3 to 6 books. In the course of this exhibition, they filled a stack more than 3.5 feet tall, right? Which was just crazy. So here you go. Great exhibit, find me on PlayStation Network, and then somebody drew Link and Navi, which is awesome. This is the best place I've ever seen in the whole wide world. I know, right? Somebody agreeing with them? Check out what Logan did. Logan, this kid stood, I'm presuming, at this podium in the midst of all these video games and hand drew this crazy maze, which I've never taken the time to figure out if you can get out. But I should, right? Leroy Jenkins made an appearance, of course, right? What would a game event be without Leroy there in the room? Right. Flower is one of the greatest games of all time. If there were some headphones on the display, the full effect would happen. We'd be able to fully appreciate the amazing score and not have to hear the Mario Brothers theme. That said, I get teary-eyed watching people play it, let alone when I play it. Cool stuff. That's Nick from Lexington. Oh, my flipping turtles, this is awesome. Bella, this is the most awesome AWE-SOM place in the world. We have to get some spelling games into the next exhibition. I know, grammar, whatever. This exhibit makes me feel at home. I feel like someone finally understands the true art. It makes me feel like I matter, right? For the Castlevania fans, what is a man? A miserable pile of secrets? Right? Somebody drew Solid Snake, and then somebody graded it. A+. What about the time sucking that happens to gamers? Effects of human interaction in normal life of lots of gaming. Thumbs down, dislike, lame, 2 times lame, and cool story, bro. Okay. I got 2 more for you. I am Commander Shepard, and this is my favorite exhibit on the Citadel. That was a good one. All right, this one is my favorite. My wife says this room reminds her too much of our house. In other words, great job. Okay. The cool part about that is that's Ed Freeze, one of the creators of the Xbox. And so his wife writes, let me know if you need to expand the exhibit, Kathy Freeze, like right next to him. So it's like, good job, Kathy, good job. All right, so recap. Right? So video games are a permanent part of global culture. It started back when we were gifted these machines as children, tried to understand what they meant, tried to understand how we could bend them to our will and impart the stories that we wanted to tell into them so they could be shared with everyone that would play them, right? And we've just seen that happen over time. We are now in a culture where we are raising children to play games, and parents for the first time have no friction in playing games with their children other than, I could beat you at Donkey Kong, you punk. We're just starting to understand the extraordinary potential for video games to reflect humanity, right? And they will transform the way we play and learn and heal. There are games that I've seen that deal in everything from teaching children why it's important to regulate breathing for the absorption of cancer medication to understanding attention deficit in the elderly, right? We are using games in these frameworks to better understand ourselves, our world, and to help each other. And it's not gamers versus casuals, right? It's everybody. And I do believe it will be the most transformative art form in our history, right? It just takes time. So with that, I thank you. I know I went over, but thank you so much for indulging me.
Thanks again so much, Chris. At this time, I want to invite all of the demo companies up for a lightning round pitch. They're one of the other highlights of tonight, so definitely want to give them the stage. So I want you guys to come on up here. Don't be shy.
Stand a little bit closer. Hello. Hey everyone. My name is Ash Bonif. Want to say thanks for inviting me out here. This is a great event. And just wanted to introduce a little bit about myself, my company, and our video games. I'm actually part of a group called the Philly Game Forge. So we are a co-development space in Philadelphia. Some of the top indie game companies are in there. In fact, a good chunk, I think 4 of these tables are actually working out of that space, including myself, though I'm there only part-time. So if any of you guys have any questions, let us know about the Philly Game Forge. My company is called Grimbros. I've been in the game industry for 15 years, and this is an RPG. And we feel that there is a space in the market for kind of off-centered, quirky, edgy RPGs. So our game is inspired by fairy tales, but we do twisted fairy tales. So our main heroine, her name's Red Robin. She's inspired by Little Red Riding Hood, but in our world, she's a raging alcoholic bounty hunter. And so she gets drunk and goes on rampages and then murders everyone around her. It's actually pretty fascinating. It's a full-on RPG. We tried to make it a kind of hybrid between a classic console RPG and a roguelike. So think Zelda, but with a female heroine and really nice graphics. That's Dragonfin Soup. Thanks, guys.
We're going to be a little awkward because we don't like talking in front of people, but I'm Zenis, and this is Mila. Hey. We're 2 people working on a game called Thresholds, maybe? It might be called something else later. it's a puzzle platformer, and if you want to see it, just come on over there and we'll show it to you. I started a company called Quadratron Games, and Mila is the artist who does all the art for our games. And we also, as Ash said, work in the Philly Game Forge, and if you have any interest in it, we're glad to talk to you about it. Every Thursday we have a open house in the office that if you're interested in game development, interested in games, interested in making music or writing stories or anything that involves games, come visit us, hang out for the evening every Thursday night. Do you want to say anything, Mila?
No.
No. It's okay. It's all right.
Hello, my name is Jason Sipe, and along with my wife Sasha, who's back there waving, she's at our booth. We're demoing our game Let There Be Life, and we have our own company together called Backward Pies. Now, Let There Be Life is our recent mobile release. It's out on Android, and it's been submitted to the App Store, so maybe tomorrow, maybe a month from now, it'll be out. It came about as a contest. It was promoted with the theme of Do No Harm, and my wife had the idea of building trees while still allowing light to reach plants on the ground below. And this was my first game in Unity and coding, and I thought that was insane because I have no idea how to do that. I was thinking platformer. Gave it a shot, and it turned out to be really unique and fun. We won second place or first place runner-up, whichever sounds better. And we decided to take it to a full release, and it evolved into this very relaxing, all ages play style game that it allows creativity with still some game rules and challenge. And we really focused on making it highly interactive. There's animals in the game that you can interact with, and the plants play music when you tap on them, and there's mushrooms which shake and make me giggle because they go boing. So we're proud of that. We're presenting it, and we'd love anybody who wants to give it a try to come by and take a look. Thanks.
Hey Philly, how's it going? Woo. Sorry, I've been up since like way too early this morning, so this is all that I got going for me. My name is Aaron Chapin, and I am Space Whale Studios. Space Whale was actually started by 6 Drexel graduates way back in 2009. In 2010, we launched our first game, Return All Robots, and didn't do any marketing, so the game failed, which was awful. But a couple years went by, we all sort of scattered. I'm still here in the city, and as of about a month ago, I'm now a solo independent developer. All right, that's loud enough. Cool. So I focus on making small, unique games, usually trying to use procedural content generation. It's kind of a big thing of mine. I also teach at Drexel occasionally as an adjunct, and I really love making games, playing games, et cetera, et cetera. I'm also a Unity contractor, so if you're looking for someone to build something in Unity, let me know. But if you're not, just come over and play my games, because they're a lot of fun. Thanks.
What's up, guys? Ooh, that's bright. My name is Brandon Harrison.
I'm Natasha.
And we are here representing the Philadelphia Game Lab. We are a nonprofit organization, and what we do is we hire current students and recent graduates of Pennsylvania universities, and we apply them to solve hard technical problems that arise in the game industry. So we go out and we talk to professionals in the game industry, and we say, what sort of technical problems are you having? What sort of frameworks or solutions do you wish are out there? And we set some bright minds to solve those technical problems, whether it's virtual reality technology, 3D audio for blind gamers, multiplayer backend frameworks, or optimizing low-level graphics. We practically do it all, and we're all developers and artists.
And on the other side, I'll be representing the art projects. So like we said, we take on students and recent grads, and we kind of give us free reign. Our problem, if you want to say, was creating an immersively rich graphical game. So basically make a lot of pretty stuff. And we wanted to really challenge the industry of games. We didn't want to make another protagonist that's a scruffy young Nathan Drake or whatever. And yeah, we do art projects as well as technical solutions.
Thank you guys for having us. It's a great opportunity.
Thank you very much. Hey guys, my name is Chris Bennett. I'm here with Skyless Game Studios. We are a serious video games company. So basically what that means is we make games that specifically have some sort of social, educational, or philanthropic impact involved with them. Tonight we are demoing our game Assemble It. It is a simple two-player puzzle game. It's for kids with autism. And basically it's intended to help them play with a peer, such as a sibling, and basically develop a sort of trusting relationship with them through gameplay. We're also showing off some stuff for our game Follow the Money. That is a training game for law enforcement agents, and it basically teaches them how to follow the money and investigate financial crimes, which of course everybody in Philadelphia probably knows a little bit about the government stealing from them. So it's certainly something very much at heart for us. But yeah, basically we work with all sorts of serious causes like that, and basically build games for them to help them to communicate with their audience in a more effective and engaging way. So feel free to stop on by and take a look at what we're doing. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ryan.
I'm also Ryan. We're Island Officials. We are a 7-year studio out of southern New Jersey.
Yeah,
that's right. We came over the bridge.
New Jersey.
All right. We started making games on Nintendo platforms, and more recently been doing iOS, Android, and Windows Phone. We have 4 games in the back to show that we've put out this year: Queen of Space, Chicken Flingers, and if you are nice, I'll give you a quarter for a free chicken flinger. And we have Super Obnoxious Ball and Frantic Frog.
And 2 more in the pipe.
2 more in the pipe, coming out in about a month. Letter Luau and Fast Flip. Too many alliterations. But, come check us out. We're having a good time. We got about 20 games under our belt, and we're going to keep you at it. So, one more thing.
We also throw a convention every 6 months called South Jersey Geek Fest, which is the celebration of everything geeky. Come out and check us out. October 25th at the Woodbury Heights Community Center. Score.
How you guys doing? My name is Chris Hoops, and I am a member of Ghost Crab Games, a 2-man indie game development studio out of South Philly. We're here showing off Bungle, which is our new mobile title for iOS, Android, and Amazon devices. We also have Drive to Hell, which is kind of a top-down, old-school arcade-style shooter about taking revenge on a demon that blew up your favorite dive bar. We also make very serious games. We've got a couple of big things in the pipeline, but really we're just kind of having fun. We're doing this about a year. Keep an eye out for us. We're going to have some news coming real soon about future projects, but thanks for having us here.
Hi, my name's Chris. Some of you may know me as DJ Cutman. I was playing some music earlier. Oh, thank you. I'm glad you liked it. So I run a record label called Game Chops. I'm not a game dev, but I was basically raised by my Nintendo. So I love video game music because something special happens when you play a video game. There's an emotional state you go into when you're deep in a story, when you're invested in a character, when you hear that music. And I believe that through video game music is one way to re-experience that joy of childhood, somebody totally immersed in the game as an adult or outside of the gaming world. So I started Game Chops, the world's first licensed video game music record label. So me and my musicians, one in the audience, hi Blake, all over the world. We got 15 musicians everywhere from Italy to England, California, Washington, Indiana. We all remix video game music and then go to the publishers, guys like Nintendo, Sega, Capcom, acquire mechanical licenses, and then put this out for mainstream consumption. So you can get video game music on iTunes now. You can hear the Zelda soundtrack on Spotify, and you can hear our remix takes on it. If you're out at a club and you come to see me, you can hear it in a dance format, or you can chill out to some Animal Crossing music. It's really chill, man. I just keep my DS open and do my taxes, yeah. I just want to say thanks so much for inviting me out. I've had a blast. I want to check out all of these games. I'm cut, man. Thanks.